You're listening to The Manning Report with your host, James David Manning. The news behind the headlines.
Now, we did not broadcast live on Friday after that Judge Ellis sentenced Paul Manafort on Thursday evening to 47 months in prison after the federal guidelines for the type of crimes that Manafort was guilty of, which is a national across-the-board guideline structured so that all sentencing would be somewhere within the same range, and there'd be equity in sentencing, was 19 and a half to 24 years, I think was what the guidelines, federal guidelines called for what Manafort did. And they dragged the sentencing out all day, late into the night. And finally, Judge Ellis announced that after calling, saying that Paul Manafort had lived an otherwise blameless life, to 47 months in prison, of which a year of it he's already served. So he'll be out in 2, or at least that would be the thought. And everybody was shocked at the fact that, that 47 months, less than 4 years for what he had done. Not only that, but he had hoodwinked, had lied, had committed crimes while in jail, after an indictment had been committed more crimes, had been found guilty by a judge, a jury of his peers, 47 months. And I think a lot of people thought that maybe, Trump had some influence here. I don't think so. I just don't think so. I don't think Trump's influence would have been on the sentencing process. I think what Trump potentially would like to do is pardon Manafort. I think this guy, Judge Ellis, is just cuckoo. I think he's just, I think someone said he says he's a Caesar in his own Rome when he's in his courtroom. That's his own Rome. He's a Caesar, and he does exactly what he wants to do. And a number of people that have followed Judge Ellis have stated that he has been very lenient, oftentimes on white-collar crime, which brings me to my next issue, is the difference between white-collar crime and black people's crimes. And the disparity and the differences, the dissimilarities, that, white people generally get less time than black folk for the same crime, or worse. And I yelled when I first heard that Paul Manafort was potentially going to get 24 years. There ain't no way. No white man in America has ever been given 24 years for anything. I say it, well, maybe for murder and rape and something like that, perhaps. But for the most part, white people don't get those kinds of years. Now, black people get them all day long. What you in prison for, homie? Yeah, man, I was stealing some hubcaps. So how much time did the judge give? Judge gave me 50 years to life. What, stealing hubcaps? Yeah, well, I stole a car in town or two, and I stole a transistor radio. 50 years for that? Yeah, I got 50 years. And everybody knows that about black people. Everybody knows that. But, white people don't get 24. Well, I ain't never heard no white person get more than 5 years in prison. And then that was mostly about probation. So when I heard, the federal guidelines said he was going to get 24 years, I said, this can't possibly be. And it didn't. They didn't give him 4 years. Not about 24. They didn't even give him 4 years. He already been in jail now a year, since August of last year, 2019. 2019. So, 2018. So, and everybody's jumping up and down, and saying, well, this is unfair, it's not right, and so forth. I think there's going to be a lot of debate about this, however, because this is going to bring it to the forefront of the arguments that black people are not treated equal under the law. And that white folk get away with murder, and especially white collar crimes, such as what this is, And I think the other thing, the general consensus is that, in equity, I think most Trump supporters think it's probably too harsh. And the fact that the Judge Ellis, during the court proceedings, didn't even want the trial to go forward. He said he's just here because you can't get Trump. That was, kind of, this judge, maybe, I don't know. Well, I do know. We're looking at what has been symptomatic and problematic for a good number of years regarding the prison sentencing structure in America as it relates to race. And then, of course, Paul Manafort's a rich man. he was allowed to keep 2 homes, both worth $2 million each, right? Now, he did fork up some $46 million, but that was all on paper. He actually physically kept 2 homes. What we're going to see is going to appear before Judge Amy Berman Jackson on Wednesday, and she has the potential to sock him with 10 years. And maybe, I don't know, she'll give him the full 10 years. There are a couple of things that Judge Jackson can do, and that she's going to have to be careful what she does as well. Because if she gives him the 10 years because Judge Ellis didn't give him the max, she's going to be persecuted and hounded out of town by, the right wingers. So we'll see what she does. But I think she's probably going to lay it on him. What my question is whether or not she will run the sentences consecutively. That is to say, if she says that if she gives him 10 years and says the 10 years sentence cannot run until he completes the 47-month sentence at judge, now that would be a humdinger. But it still wouldn't be 19 and a half years. It'd still be 5 years shy of what would have been the minimum for Paul Manafort. And I think that Manafort, quite frankly, if I can just say a word about him, hope you don't mind. You don't mind if I say a word about Manafort, right? I think Manafort is a man without a country. And by that I mean, I think Manafort, I think he wants to cooperate, but I think he knows them Russian boys will put an ice pick in him so quick, it'll make the Iceman wonder where he got that ice pick from. Now, I said something the other day, I want to pull it up myself, that Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Huckabee Sanders are as ugly as a barbed wire fence. I laughed! And they are 2 ugly women, ugly as a barbed wire fence. If you don't know what a barbed wire fence is, I guess you don't know what that is. Anyway, but I think that the issue here with Paul Manafort is that he recognizes that if the Russians will kill that boy. If he goes and start telling about what he did with Konstantin Kalimnik and what he's handed over to Putin, they'll kill him. They'll kill him in jail. They got Boston Whitey Belcher, they got him in jail. They will ice him in jail. He's in solitary confinement now. And I don't think Trump has anything to do with this. I know that Judge Ellis is probably an idiot. But I think Manafort recognizes I'd rather die in jail than get out and die on the streets of New York City by giving up information that will nail Vladimir Putin to the wall regarding the information he had and that would definitely say that the election was an absolute fraud. If what Manafort did, if Manafort came clean, now listen to this very carefully, if Manafort came clean and told what he knows about what he did during the 49 days he was the campaign chairman for Tribulation Trump, his connection, collusion, and conspiracy with Russia, and it still may be noised abroad, it would immediately null and void Trump's election. Immediately, the whole machinery of our political machinery would stop dead cold because Manafort has the key and the information that Trump's election is illegal. And that's how critical this is. I mean, you all think about this. And Robert Mueller knows that. So how is Robert Mueller going to treat that? And there are a couple of concerns. One is that punishing Manafort may not be his mega concern. What Robert Mueller may be charged with the responsibility of is how do you keep America together? Because when the full information is brought out, immediately Tribulation Trump's presidency will be stomped down 100% wholly illegal. Would it default to Hillary Clinton, Jezebel, becoming president? And it can be. So these are all the things that are going on now in Washington, D.C. These are the things that are being discussed. These are the things that Trump knows, that if Mueller, and Mueller knows what Manafort did, that it would null and void, forget about impeachment. It would null and void Trump's presidency, and the president will fall by default to Hillary Clinton. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. And so how do How do the powers that be broker this information to the American people and to the world at large? Well, we're going to have to see. Well, what's my guess? You say, well, Pastor Mann says you're running this. What do you think? I mean, I tell you, even for me, I don't have a word from the Lord. But I suspect that at some point, whether in the next 9 months or next year, this information will come out, whether it be by Mueller or whether it will be by Elijah Cummings or Adam Schiff or Gerald Nadler or some other entity, or whether Manafort himself will just stand up and say, I'm ready to die for my nation. Here's what happened. Trump's election was wholly and completely illegal, and I orchestrated it. The way I've been orchestrating tensions between the Ukraine and Russia for years. That's what you asked me what I believe, that's what I believe. So the elevator carrying America to hell has landed on the bottom. And it's not going to get better from here. It isn't going to get better from here. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.